Good to have you with us on this Thursday edition of Ed Schultz News and Commentary. It has been officially released, and so I've been chomping at the bit for recent weeks to talk about this. Good to have you with us. I'm going back to television, and I'm going back to prime time, and I'm excited about it. I'm going to work for RT America here in Washington, D.C. I will do the news with Ed Schultz at 8 o'clock Monday through Thursday at 8 o'clock prime time on RT America. You can get it on Dish and you can get it on DirecTV. They have a huge presence on the internet and also on YouTube. So I've been thinking about this for a long time. We've talked for a while. I feel good about their operation. They are truly professional. They're outside the mainstream because they do stories that I care about and I know that my audience over the years cares about. And that's the American middle class, to get into the detail, to tell the root of what is happening in this country and bring it to the screen. So it's going to be a 30-minute nightly news program, The News with Ed Schultz, and I'm going to be able to travel the country, going to be able to travel the globe. And that really is the neat thing about this. This is a huge global platform. RT has a big presence all over the world. And so this is going to be somewhat of a world news package. That's also going to focus big time on American issues and how that affects the American middle class. So our first show is going to be 8 o'clock Monday night, January 25th. And so I'm back in the game in prime time where I belong. At my last employer, I had my best ratings ever in prime time, and I'm looking forward to getting back to that audience. And, of course, they have a huge on-demand and delivery system with RT. RT is adding. While a lot of news agencies in this country and around the globe are cutting back and knocking off resources, I'm excited that RT America is certainly adding. I'm testimony to that, but I can also tell you behind the scenes they're adding a lot of other people and a lot of other equipment and resources, and I'm excited about it. I got a lot of tire left. You know, when I was informed of the decision of what my career was going to go through back in July of last year, I did a lot of fishing, did a lot of thinking, did a lot of outdoor work, and I just thought, well, maybe retirement. And I just couldn't do it. I got way too much tire, too much energy. I want to do this. I'm looking forward to it. I feel good about Washington. My wife is all about it. Wendy's excited that I'm going to be back on doing what I do best, and that's reporting to the global platform. So I hope that you will join me on the News with Ed Schultz starting at 8 o'clock Eastern Time on Dish and Direct and YouTube, and a great internet presence and a global platform on RT America. That will be January 25th. Looking forward to it. This is Ed Schultz News and Commentary, which will not change. I will be here every day at WeGotEd.com. You can like me on Facebook at WeGotEd. And the platform just gets bigger. And this is going to be great for my sponsors. It's going to be great visibility for the people who work hard in this country to make the middle class go. The people that you've seen on my productions in the past are the people that you're going to see on RT America. And the stories that I've done going all over the country, I'm going to continue to do that, but it's going to be expanded to a global presence with an American take on exactly what's going on. I'm looking forward to it. And I just want to clarify right off the top, no one's going to tell me what to cover, and no one's going to tell me what to say. I'm still the Ed Schultz you've always known. It's the News with Ed Schultz, 8 o'clock Eastern, Monday through Thursday. And you might be wondering, well, why not Friday? Well, because we're going to be producing a different kind of show for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I will have a 7-day-a-week presence on RT America. I'm really looking forward to it. We're right back on Ed Schultz News and Commentary, brought to you by Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team. We're right back. Hey, folks, you've heard me talk about BioGreen Clean. I'm going to show you right now on my airplane just how tough this is. I want you to keep in mind, chemical-free, 100% plant-derived, biodegradable. It is the safest cleaner that you can get, and it's the most effective. Go to our website, WeGotEd.com, or go to biogreenclean.com. www.biogreenclean and order today. It's time to continue our conversation about mechanical insulation. Mechanical insulation is for the piping systems in our nation's commercial and industrial facilities. Facility owners are burning up billions of dollars through the lack of mechanical insulation on these piping systems. Call the iSave team. Insulation saves America valuable energy, and this team of energy conservation specialists is shovel-ready to save you money. Visit iSaveTeam.org to have a specialist give your plant an energy audit. This is Ed Schultz News and Commentary coming to you from Washington, D.C. One of the big stories in recent days has been the dust-up between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, the back and forth. All of a sudden, it's on health care. We got a battle on our hands, folks, and if someone had said this 6 months ago, you would have thought, no way, no one's going to challenge the Clinton machine. The fact is there is something happening out there, and the competition is great, which I think is great for the progressive movement in America. I think it's great for liberals. I think that there is a true vetting process, while on the other side, they're barbing back and forth. They're still trying to figure out whether Ted Cruz is going to be eligible to be president of the United States, and we will get to that a little bit later in this production. But I want to start today with Lanny Davis. Friend of mine. He's vice president of LAVIC. He's a longtime Clinton associate and friend, for his insight on what has unfolded on the campaign trail. This is Hillary Clinton going after and pointing out that Bernie Sanders needs to pony up and tell the country exactly how he's going to pay for what he has supported all along as universal health care. Here it is.
We have a difference on health care. I want to build on the Affordable Care Act. He's introduced legislation 9 times that have laid out a very specific plan to take everybody's health care and roll it into a great big bundle and hand it to the states. But my view is we shouldn't be ripping up Obamacare and starting over.
Lanny Davis, good to have you with us.
Boy, do I agree with you, Ed, and it's nice. It's nice to agree with you even when we have differences of opinion, because our views on the issues are so close. We're both progressive liberal Democrats. I say liberal still, and it's really healthy for us to debate the issues. To hear Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, 2 progressive Democrats, all her life she's been a progressive Democrat. Bernie Sanders, I've always told you, I greatly admire and respect, and have this debate on which is the best way to deliver universal health care, which they both have supported for years. And Bernie Sanders has a different approach. She supports President Obama's approach. And debate that. Let's hear it out. And there's lots of other issues that can be debated within the progressive ranks. And look at the contrast, as you just said, absolutely correctly, between debating issues when you're very close, but you're willing to debate different approaches to get to the same objective, versus the Republicans literally slinging mud, personal attacks at each other. What a contrast.
Well, I think it's important to point out, and I think you have capsulized it well, Lanny, is that if you were to put both candidates side by side, as that they will do again in the debate, and you ask them if they want universal health care, they're both going to say yes. But then they have to detail out how they're going to get there. Hillary Clinton wants to build on Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act, whatever you want to call it. And Bernie Sanders, we know for years, has advocated for Medicare for all, universal health care. But the twist in this is the claim by the Clinton camp, by the candidate herself, saying that Bernie Sanders would turn it over to people like Terry Branstad, the governor of Iowa. This is the response from Bernie Sanders on that.
Now she's attacking me because I support universal health care. In 2008, she was attacking Obama because Obama was attacking her because she supported universal health care. I would hope that Secretary Clinton will tell the American people, does she support universal health care?
Well, I don't really think that's the issue. The issue is how you get. The issue is how you get there. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Excuse me for interrupting. Again, I love this guy. I love listening to him. I love his background. I love his commitment to progressive causes. And with their differences, but I love this guy. And I love Hillary Clinton. But he didn't address the question of what has he proposed in his legislation. He just said universal health care. So let's get to what the facts are. What he has said is, I would repeal the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and I would replace it by a single-payer system, which is socialized medicine, and Medicare for all means the government runs the medical system and all bills go to the government, as in Medicare, and Medicare pays doctors. she would say, I'd rather have the federal government running exchanges where competition occurs, where insurance companies bid for our business, and you have requirements for insurance companies like no pre-existing conditions and a lot of other essential health care benefits have to be covered by all insurance companies. So it's a different approach, but they both want universal health care, with the government strongly intervening to make things right. But she is also right. What he's proposed is that 86% of his single-payer system would be funded by the federal government, 14% would be funded by every state, and that's in his legislation, and the states would run the Medicare for all per state. So it wouldn't be done out of the federal, entirely federal government system. It would be delegated to each of the states. Now,
okay, that was, in fairness... In fairness, that was a plan of yesteryear, just like Hillary Clinton had a plan of yesteryear when she tried to get health care back during the Clinton administration. But evolving to a position now, it's like she's taken an old piece of information and working over Bernie Sanders on that. It is true that the Sanders campaign has not laid out the full plan on how they're going to pay for it. But I think that if you ask the majority of Americans, that's not their issue. It's not a question of whether they're going to get taxed more. It's a question of whether they really do want universal health care. And that's why a lot of people are coming up with the conclusion that the only reason why Hillary's going down this road is because she has slipped in the polls and they're neck and neck. Let's just say they're neck and neck. I mean, there's so many polls out there. I don't even know who's ahead, but I know that they're so close. What about that?
Well, look, you always stated fairly. People are coming up with a conclusion, but not a fact. The conclusion is looking at facts and then deriving a conclusion. For her to question, precisely because it's now extremely competitive, and now she's got to try to smoke out what Bernie Sanders is really proposing and not allow him to stay with the generality of universal health care. Well, give us your details, how you're going to pay for it. But the point is, and whether she's right or wrong in what he's presently proposing or what he proposed in the past, you make a very fair point. If he's evolved into a different position now, more power to him. I don't blame him for that. But now I'm interested in details because he's competitive with Hillary Clinton. It's time to get into details. But let's just assume that the conclusion here is because it's now competitive and very close in Iowa and New Hampshire, and it's possible, as I said in a column 6 months ago, that Senator Sanders could win both of those, then it's fair game, and it's good for our party, as you started out by saying. So let's debate exactly the details, and let's see how we get to universal health care, whether there's a better way than President Obama's way. But that's not hurting our party. That's helping our party. It's two liberals debating issues, not attacking each other personally.
All right. Now there's another one more issue I want to go at, Lanny, and that's guns. This is Hillary Clinton saying that Bernie's not totally where he needs to be on firearms. Here it is.
No, I'm not nervous at all. I'm working hard, and I intend to keep working as hard as I can. I think we're in that stage of a campaign where we've each been introducing ourselves. We've been talking about our particular views on issues, and now it's time to draw some contrast. One of the big ones, as you're aware, is on gun safety, where Senator Sanders has been a pretty reliable vote for the gun lobby, and I have been standing against them for a long time.
Here's Senator Sanders' response to that.
I have a D- voting record from the NRA.
Correct.
In 1988, I probably lost a congressional election because I said maybe we should not have assault weapons being sold in America. So to say that I'm kind of a supporter of the NRA is really a mean-spirited and unfair and inaccurate statement.
Lanny, is it mean-spirited and unfair?
I'm sorry you used that expression, because when he said that President Clinton's personal behavior was a disgrace, and that's a personal issue, a personal weakness that went on during the Monica Lewinsky time period, I thought that was mean-spirited, but I didn't think he meant it to be mean-spirited. I think he just said it and probably regretted it. I don't think Hillary Clinton is making a personal attack on saying he was a reliable vote for the gun law, because let's look at facts. I'd rather use facts and descriptions. You know me, Ed. I don't like reliable vote. That's a description. Let's look at facts. He voted against the Brady bill 9 times. The Brady bill was background checks. Not 1 time, 9 times. Fact. He voted and continues to vote for immunity for gun manufacturers from being sued if they recklessly sell guns. Recklessly being defined, they don't provide safety devices. Fact. Now, is that a reliable or unreliable vote? I accept his change in position as sincere, and I also respect the fact that when he voted against the Brady bill, he was voting on behalf of his constituents. So I don't criticize. It's a fact that has to be taken into account. Okay. And I think the two of them debating at this level and avoiding personal attacks. I know Hillary Clinton loves Bernie Sanders and admires him personally. I know it personally, having heard her say it. I know that Bernie Sanders did a wonderful thing when he said the emails aren't what we should be talking about. He's a great man, and let's see these two debate the issues and not use personal characterizations or conclusions about what they intend. Let's just listen to them, and we'll have a great debate Sunday night.
Lanny Davis, always good to visit. Appreciate your time on Ed Schultz News and Commentary.
Love talking to you, Ed. Bye-bye.
And one more thing, Lanny. I'm doing a TV show again. I'm going to be on RT America here in Washington, D.C., and guess what? You're going to be a guest. Lanny Davis here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. When we come back, The Nation magazine has endorsed Bernie Sanders. Katrina Vanden Heuvel on that. And later on, a constitutional lawyer saying that Ted Cruz is not eligible to be president of the United States and Donald Trump is correct. That's next. Stay with us.
We perpetuate a culture of crime all the way from Wall Street right down to the main street in our hometowns. It's worse than it has been since FDR took control of the problem and said we can't count on industry taking care of the American labor. They probably have already engaged into some type of criminal cover-up, and the law prohibits the government from even doing anything about it.
Catch America's lawyer Mike Papantonio on YouTube at youtube.com/GoLeftTV.
Good to have you with us on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. The Nation magazine, absolutely revered in the progressive movement in spearheading so many progressive policies and cutting through all of the shafts, so to speak, to get to the issues in America. So highly respected in the progressive movement. The Nation magazine, 150 years old. For just the third time in its history, the liberal magazine The Nation has endorsed a presidential candidate, and that is Bernie Sanders. The endorsement comes on the heels of the news that the Vermont senator is reporting record fundraising hauls and his endorsement by Move On, the liberal advocacy organization. They, of course, have to have 67% of their members to go with a candidate. Well, in a long, lengthy poll and survey, 78% of MoveOn.org members said Bernie Sanders should be the next president. So this brings us now to The Nation, which also makes a very rare move, but states it very clearly. While editors endorse Sanders, the endorsement acknowledged Sanders' path to the presidency isn't perfectly clear. He opposes Hillary Clinton in the primary, and the magazine's editors noted he lacks deep support among minority voters, but the endorsement stressed what it characterized as the independence of his campaign. The quote is, as they write, voters can trust Sanders because he doesn't owe his political career to the financial overlords of the status quo. Freed from these chains of special interest, he can take bold measures that the country needs, the editorial read. We now visit with Katrina Vanden Heuvel, who is the editor and part owner of The Nation magazine. Katrina, good to have you with us.
Thank you, Ed. The Nation rarely makes endorsements in Democratic primaries, and we've done so only twice. Jesse Jackson in 1988, Barack Obama in 2008. But this is a particularly important one because we believe that Bernie Sanders has used his insurgent campaign to tell Americans the truth about what's going on in this country. And he's called on the people to a political revolution, something you do, Ed, day in, day out, arguing, just as you said, that this country is of, by, for the people and shouldn't be of, by, for the big banks, the billionaires. Bernie Sanders is unbought. He is free to advance the bold agenda you mentioned. And in doing so, he has become an ally and a champion of the movements of our time, from the fight for 15 to Black Lives Matter, immigrant rights, climate activists. So it's exciting. And I think Bernie Sanders, at this moment as we talk, we look out at Iowa and New Hampshire, and it's tight. It's very tight. And that is what this magazine called for more than a year ago. We said contested primaries, not only good for the country, the Democratic Party, democracy, good for the candidates.
But
And
this endorsement, but Katrina, this endorsement also says you think that Bernie Sanders should be the candidate, that he should be the next president of the United States.
We believe he would make a great president. He is calling on Americans to participate in rebuilding our country, taking back a government that has been captured by special interests, entrenched power. Don't give up on the government. Too many want to do that. Take it back, clean it up, make it work for ordinary people, make it work for the common good as it should. And his proposals, Ed, from Medicare for All to breaking up the big banks to tackling corporate-defined trade agreements, all of this is so in sync with the values, the ideas the nation has championed for decades. We've been covering Bernie Sanders for close on to 30 years. I take special pleasure in seeing how millions of people are not only meeting Bernie Sanders, but meeting ideas that the mainstream corporate media has for too long tried to marginalize. And they are mainstream ideas. They demand attention. Only recently, as you know, Ed, you've been covering Bernie Sanders for years and years, but only recently and shamefully have the corporate media started covering Bernie Sanders in the way he deserves. They have lavished attention on Donald Trump and those rallies, when in fact last summer Bernie Sanders was galvanizing young people, progressives across this country. He is making inroads among African Americans, Latinos, Asian Americans, core Democratic constituencies. But, you know, it's too early. A lot of people still haven't met him. I think the game is nothing's over till it's over. And the momentum that he could achieve coming out of Iowa and New Hampshire, fueled by the Move On endorsement, the people there activized. I think it's this whole election cycle, Ed, I don't need to tell you, could give one good vertigo and not so good vertigo, because who predicted we would be here just a few weeks before the caucuses, the primaries? It was an inevitability race because the media imposed a kind of inevitability template.
There's no question. And I don't think there's any doubt that when Bernie started getting a lot of money and started spending it wisely, that he started to move up. But it really became close, and then he moved ahead when the corporate media in this country, they had to cover him.
And they had to cover
him, and so now this is if you're in the Clinton camp, these are scary times.
I want to get to that, but I just want to say one thing I think we cannot lose sight of is what Bernie Sanders has shown is the unprecedented ability to raise small donations, and from a million plus, and to really challenge one of the fundraising machines of our times. And I think that is a message that is critical, because he is unbought at a moment when 158 families or corporations have already funded half of this campaign. The Clinton campaign, don't need to tell you, is fighting back. I mean, there's no longer kumbaya time. But I'm very surprised, I have to say, that Hillary Clinton went after Bernie on Medicare for All, single payer. I mean, it is fair, she could have said, Obamacare has its problems, but it's what we could get through. The history of reform in this country, from Social Security to Medicare, is building on reforms. But instead, she's attacking his idea of Medicare for All and doing so in a way that is dishonest. And it just seems that it's a self-inflicted wound. It reminds people, I think, of Hillary Clinton's checkered history with health care reform. Seems to me she should be able to say that Medicare for All is the vision she wants to achieve, and it's going to be tough, but to dismiss the health care plan of Bernie Sanders as delegating health care to 50 states is, it's just mischaracterization, which is feeding ill will.
This is going to be a different debate.
It is.
And when Bernie Sanders comes back and says that attack by Clinton is mean-spirited and unfair, any moderator with his or her salt would make sure that they get to that issue right away, because it needs to be cleaned up. Now, I have to view it this way, Katrina. There's proposals of the past. There's votes of the past. Where are you now, and how are you going to do it? I think if you put Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders side by side, they both want universal health care. It's how they're going to get there is the big key. But to put forward the idea that he would turn it over to governors,
yes,
such as Terry Branstad, I think that is the stick in everybody's craw.
Absolutely. And I also, it's not the first time that Hillary Clinton has mischaracterized Bernie Sanders' proposals. Remember the first debate, as we head into the next one, she said Sanders' proposals in health care would cost 18 to 20 trillion. I mean, that was out of the Wall Street Journal, straight out of the Wall Street Journal, and in no way did it estimate the costs of Bernie Sanders' ideas, which would bring trillions of dollars of savings and benefits. We see that in industrialized Western countries around the world, where they do have a Medicare for all single-payer program. So I think there were legitimate ways to criticize Bernie Sanders, but this is going to backfire if you do have moderators worth their salt.
That's what I was waiting for you to say.
I
wanted your take on this. What's the outcome of this? What do you mean backfire?
I think it backfires because, as I said, first of all, I think the Democratic base, which is vital at this point, Medicare for All is real popular.
It is.
The Democratic base vote.
It was part of the party platform in 2008.
And Barack Obama, once upon a time, said that he would do single payer if he thought he could pass it. And now building on Obamacare, trying to cover those still left out. Medicare for everyone is the next step. So I think, what it does? It also kind of reminds people, I hate to say it again, that Hillary Clinton's history with health care reform, it throws people into the past as opposed to her laying out a vision for the future. And again, I think it's vital that if we got some real moderation on Sunday night at the debate, that this be called out and that Bernie speak to it clearly, which I believe he will. Okay. But it's, it's part of, it just shows the Hillary Clinton camp is worried.
They're very worried.
Part of a campaign. I mean, I'm surprised you said earlier, this has been a very serious campaign of ideas. It's terrific. It's been a clash of ideas, not like on the Republican side, a clash of vapid extremist Star Wars bar scene rolling around people. This has been a clash of ideas. And I think in that sense, Bernie Sanders deserves a lot of credit because he has said he doesn't want to attack Hillary Clinton. He wants to speak about the issues that this country deserves to hear.
And he hasn't attacked her. He's only defended himself at this point.
That's right.
Katrina Vanden Heuvel, I'm back on TV, RT America, 8 o'clock Eastern, Monday through Thursday.
Terrific.
It's the News with Ed Schultz. I hope you'll join me.
Terrific. Congratulations. Look forward to seeing you, Ed.
Thank you, Katrina. Appreciate it. Coming up on Ed Schultz News and Commentary, does Ted Cruz have the right to be President of the United States? Is he legal? Constitutional lawyer joins us to say he's not in the game. That's next. Stay with us.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania, to the auto factories of Michigan, to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
The News with Ed Schultz coming up on January 25th, Monday night, 8 o'clock Eastern on RT America. That's right. I'm back on the tube. The News with Ed Schultz on RT America. You can find it on Dish and Direct and around the world in 60 countries and a huge presence on YouTube. I'm looking forward to being back in the game. All right, there was a very interesting piece that was recently written and published in the Washington Post, an op-ed Tuesday by constitutional law professor who asserts that due to his Canadian birth, Senator Ted Cruz is not eligible to be president of the United States. This is Cruz last week defending himself, saying it's all settled.
As a legal matter, the question is quite straightforward and settled law that the child of a U.S. citizen born abroad is a natural-born citizen. People will continue to make political noise about it, but as a legal matter, it's quite straightforward. I would note that it has occurred many times in history. John McCain was born in Panama, but he was a natural-born citizen because his parents were U.S. citizens. George Romney, Mitt's dad, was born in Mexico when his parents were Mormon missionaries, but he was a natural-born citizen because his parents were citizens. And actually, Barry Goldwater was born in Arizona before Arizona was a state, and yet he was a natural-born citizen because his parents were citizenship. There are serious issues facing the American people, serious issues to be decided in this election, and that's where our focus is going to stay.
Okay, so that's Ted Cruz. That's his verbal defense that he is eligible to be president of the United States. Although Professor Mary Brigid McManamon, professor at Widener University, Delaware Law School, writes in the Washington Post, "Let me be clear, I'm not a so-called birther. I am a legal historian." She writes that it's a natural-born citizen. It's a requirement for presidency under the Constitution. Professor McManamon joins us here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Professor, I appreciate your time.
My pleasure, Ed.
Break this down for us. Why isn't Ted Cruz across the board eligible to be president, or as you also write, or even vice president of the United States?
Well, the term natural-born citizen, which is the actual requirement to be president or vice president, comes from the English common law, and that is directed to us by the United States Supreme Court. The court says if a common law term is in the Constitution, you look to English common law to find the definition. That common law is very clear. You have to have been born in English territory to be a natural-born citizen, and when it came across the pond, James Madison and other early American framers said, yes, that applies here in the United States. Only here it's you have to be born in U.S. territory to be president of the United States.
So Cruz comes back and says that it's settled law. What's he talking about?
First of all, it's settled what the definition of natural born is, but no one running for the presidency has had to have it officially decided. I'd like to point out that only George Romney, of the three other men that Ted Cruz refers to, is analogous to his situation. The common law definition was that you had to be born in the territory of the U.S., so Barry Goldwater, being born in the territory of Arizona, was eligible. There's a problem with John McCain because of a racist series of opinions in the early 20th century by the Supreme Court, which said that the people born in our unincorporated territories, you know, the ones we got from the Spanish-American War, like the Philippines and Puerto Rico and Guam, because they were, and I'm quoting the Supreme Court, because those people were alien races. They weren't of the American race, whatever that is, and they could not be natural-born citizens. Now, I think John McCain would have had an easy time contending that those cases should be disavowed. But it's George Romney and Ted Cruz who present the problem of being born in non-American territory. And, of course, George Romney, remember once he said that he had been brainwashed by the generals and his candidacy ended very quickly. So the issue was never settled as to him.
All right, to the politics of this on the trail. This is Donald Trump bringing up the issue.
Ted's been really nice until the last couple of days. Ted Cruz. He's been really, really nice. Other than the last couple of days, getting a little testy. I've been waiting. You got a little problem, you know, you got to sort of make sure you can run. You got to make sure you can run. A lot of lawyers say you can't run if you do that. You can't be born in Canada. You can't be a Canadian citizen. Supposing he runs and everybody's banking on him, and then the courts rule that he can't run. That's not so good. What do? Concede the election to Hillary Clinton or to crazy Bernie? Right?
Well, how would this play out, Professor McManamon? How do you see this? I mean, and do you think that this is going to continue to be an issue?
Well, as long as Donald Trump beats the drum, yes, I think it's going to continue to be an issue. Legally speaking, it could come up in a couple of different ways. One might be if a state Secretary of State said to Senator Cruz, we're not putting your name on the ballot, we don't think you're eligible, he might be able to bring a suit. He would certainly have what we call standing, that is, a potential injury. The other might be if one of the other candidates, Senator Rubio or Carly Fiorina, brought a challenge. They would also have what we call standing to sue, claiming that he's, illegible and therefore taking votes away from them.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, Trump says the Democrats would sue. They probably would. It would end up, I guess, at the Supreme Court. And we all know how Alito and Roberts and Scalia and Thomas and the five think. I would imagine, based on their writings of the past, that they might align themselves with a Ted Cruz. And so where would that leave us?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know. I mean, have you noticed that the entire Republican establishment seems to be turning their back on him? Mitch McConnell won't bring a resolution to the Senate, et cetera. So you combine with Scalia's and Thomas's originalist thinking, they might go in a surprising way. But I just can't predict what would happen.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure. Professor McManamon, we'll do it again. Thanks so much. Very interesting piece and a real legal eye-opener to the American people. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ed.
You bet. This is Ed Schultz, News and Commentary. Again, the announcement today, I'm back on TV starting January 25th, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, in prime time on RT America. You'll be able to catch Ed Schultz with the news. It's a wrap-up of the day's news. And, of course, read all the accounts about what the show is going to be all about. I'm really looking forward to it. This global platform on RT America is going to be something to work with. There's no question about it. And I'm looking forward to it. I hope you'll join me. I'm still the same Ed. You can count on that. This is Ed Schultz, News and Commentary, brought to you by Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team. We're back tomorrow.